Tyler, in your capacity with NARPM, you might be best prepared to explain the overall housing voucher program policies, and maybe if there are some changes that might be coming into the fold in 2021 and beyond. Could you kind of kick that off with us and tell us about the program?
Sure, happy to do it. In a nutshell, Housing Choice Vouchers, for those who've not worked with them, basically, or can be seen as in essence, a replacement for public housing. Right? So when we first began to try and house people and in housing policy in this country, we built buildings, we built large towers in different parts of cities, and that's how we housed people. But the way the Housing Choice Voucher Program developed was as a way that same consumer, rather than being in one place, right, can take that voucher to a participating landlord and live in a community of their choice. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to defer to Amanda and Patti in getting into the actual nuts and bolts, because they work with this program on a day-to-day basis, right? So some of those pain points and maybe not pain points that the property managers are experiencing, they can speak to them much better.
Some observers who track these kind of programs and advocate groups feel that the overall goals of the program, the housing voucher program, or the Section 8, as we commonly call it, has just really kind of proved elusive, right? It really hasn't fulfilled the true promise of housing security and perhaps geographic choice. Patti and Amanda, any comments on that? I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Obviously, there's some reform being introduced, which Tyler's reviewed. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're exactly right. The whole premise of the program is housing choice voucher, with choice being the operative word. That means tenants should be able to take that voucher and get into a better neighborhood, a better school system, a school system where they have more resources. But the reality is these are always low income households. And low income households, they do have to have some kind of income to be in the program. So if they don't have disability and Social Security, that means they have to work. And most of them have children. And if you work and have children, that means you have to have childcare. And childcare is very, very expensive. There's very few resources available for childcare, even though they do have resources available for rent and, food stamps and some other things. So while they can take their voucher and live any place they want, transportation is oftentimes an issue. Either they don't have a car, so they're using public transportation, or they have undependable transportation, or just the budget of gas every week is a significant budget item in a low income household. So while they can take their voucher any place they want, the reality is they end up wanting to stay near family members so that they have some help with childcare. So those pockets of poverty where they came from, they end up in my vantage point, in my world, going back and choosing to live in those neighborhoods because they need to live near their aunt, near their grandma, near their mother, their sister, so that they can have some help with childcare.
Yeah, no, those are really, really good points. Amanda, how about you and your experience in Hawaii? What are you seeing?
Sure. So in Hawaii, we have, different people helping us, whether they're Section 8 through the state or whether they're through the county. It's like everything works a little bit differently depending on who we're working with. So there's not much consistency there. Every time we're helping a Section 8 tenant, we're not exactly sure how it's going to go. And that's always makes it really difficult. And we're professional property managers, right? So our biggest competition here in Hawaii, for clients is actually the mom and pop owners who are managing it themselves. And it's like, if we can't figure out how to work with Section 8 program, how are they going to figure it out, right? So it's very daunting for most people. So I think here the biggest problem is that, it's just working with Section 8, right?
Understanding how it works, and that's
how does it work? Yeah, and you do have people who want to help Section 8 renters, and we do work with Section 8 as a company, and we have no issues usually with our tenants at all. It's really that arduous process of just getting that tenant into the property,
sure.
Right? So even if we have an owner who's willing to accept Section 8, let's say, or any other housing voucher. And if we have several applications that come in if they're all equally good, we're probably going to go with a tenant who can like move in right away, versus having to do like what Tyler was describing. After we accept them, now we have to schedule a inspection that might take a few weeks, and then so by the time the tenant finally moves in, it might be a month from now, right? And the owner can't afford a month vacancy. Well, if we have an application for someone who can move in next week, we're going to go with them.